Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is R.S. Raghu bringing glimpses of major developments of the day from across the globe. The headlines. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi says India can achieve the target of $5 trillion economy by 2024 despite COVID-19. India strongly condemns the recent terrorist attacks in France. Foreign Secretary of India arrives in Paris in the first leg of his three-nation tour to Europe. In U.S. presidential elections, national polls show Joe Biden securing a 12-point lead over President Donald Trump. And Washington calls Beijing's claims on the waters near Indonesia's Natuna Islands as unlawful. Prime Minister of India Mr. Narendra Modi said he is optimistic of achieving the target of $5 trillion economy by 2024 despite the COVID-19 pandemic. He added that Indian economy is getting back on track faster than expected, and the recent reforms are signal to the world that New India believes in markets and market forces. Mr. Modi expressed confidence that recent labour reforms undertaken by the government will help in increasing the growth rate. Mr. Modi said the government has laid strong foundations to make India a manufacturing hub and it will continue its reforms. He referred to the Moody's report which says 154 greenfield projects from the US have come to India in 2020 compared to 86 in China, 12 in Vietnam and 15 in Malaysia. This is a clear indication of global confidence in India's growth story going forward. The Prime Minister said government will take all measures to constantly stimulate the economy in a timely manner while ensuring overall macroeconomic stability. In a suspected terrorist attack at a church in the French city of Nice today, a knife-wielding attacker beheaded a woman and killed two other people. The gruesome incident took place near the Notre Dame church. The attacker has been arrested. The attack comes while France is still reeling from the beheading of a French middle school teacher, Samuel Paty, by a man of Chechen origin earlier this month. The Indian Prime Minister has strongly condemned the recent terrorist attacks in France, including today's heinous attacks in Nice. In a tweet, he said, India stands with France in the fight against terrorism. Foreign Secretary of India Harshvardhan Shringla has arrived in Paris in the first leg of his three-nation tour to Europe. He is on a 7-day visit to France, Germany and the United Kingdom as part of India's continuing international engagement and diplomatic outreach. From Paris, he will reach Berlin on 31st of October and London on 3rd of November. More in this report.
During his visit, Foreign Secretary will review bilateral relations and discuss matters of mutual interest. India's relations with France, Germany and UK are built on a foundation of shared democratic values. India has a very substantial trade and commercial ties and large investment flows with these countries. Indian priorities such as robust and reform multilateralism, its expanded multilateral and plurilateral engagements and its commitment to a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific will be discussed. Foreign Secretary's visit to these countries is part of India's continuing international engagement and diplomatic outreach in spite of the limitations posed by the pandemic. This is Nishit Kumar for World News.
In U.S. presidential elections, Democratic nominee Joe Biden has secured a 12-point lead nationally over President Donald Trump. According to a poll released yesterday, Biden gets 54% support among likely votes, while Trump trails at 42%. The survey also showed Biden heading into the election day with a far greater support across the country than Hillary Clinton enjoyed before her defeat in 2016. Biden has also a 44% lead among seniors, a historically Republican-leaning group that is set to play a key role in swing states like Arizona and Florida. External Affairs Ministry of India today said people-to-people relationship is an important foundation of the special relationship between India and the US. Ministry spokesperson Anurag Srivastava said India has emphasized that this has been a mutually beneficial partnership which should be nurtured, and the Indian side is engaged with the US government for increasing predictability in the visa regime.
We are engaged with the US government for increasing predictability in the visa regime as well as to minimize the inconvenience being faced by those in the US as well as those who need to travel to the US for bona fide reasons. And Government of India will continue to monitor developments in this regard.
This is All India Radio giving you the world news. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on Thursday said Washington respected Jakarta's effort to safeguard its own waters. In a joint news conference with his Indonesian counterpart, Retno Marsudi, he hailed Jakarta's decisive action to protect its sovereignty in the waters near the Natuna Islands, which China also claims as its territory. Pompeo said China's claim was unlawful.
Our law-abiding nations reject the unlawful claims made by the Chinese Communist Party in the South China Sea, as is clear from Indonesia's courageous leadership on the subject within ASEAN and at the United Nations. It's a cause worth pursuing in multilateral settings. The Trump administration very much supports this. So welcome the example Indonesia set with decisive action to safeguard its maritime sovereignty around the Natuna Islands.
In another development, Chinese and U.S. military chiefs held talks on crisis communication this week, amid heightened tensions between the two military superpowers this year in the South China Sea. Meanwhile, Washington has denied a media report on a possible drone attack on Chinese islands and reefs in the South China Sea. With U.S. presidential elections around the corner, the talks assume importance as U.S. Defense Secretary Mark Esper toured Asia with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. They urge countries to cooperate with the United States to confront the security threats posed by China. The European Union said an escalation in the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict was unacceptable and called for new peace talks. 3 ceasefire agreements brokered by Russia, France and the US have failed to hold as civilians have been killed on either side of the conflict. Meanwhile, Turkey has demanded a bigger role in any peace negotiations. Armenia and Azerbaijan traded accusations of shelling in and around the mountain enclave once again on Thursday. The worst fighting in the South Caucasus was nearly 30 years has raised fears of a wider war that could suck in Russia and Turkey, an ally of Azerbaijan. It also poses a threat to pipelines carrying oil and gas from Azerbaijan to world markets. Tanzania's leading opposition presidential candidate on Thursday urged countries not to recognize the results of an election held the previous day. Tundu Lissu, the main challenger to incumbent President John Magufuli, called the elections a travesty due to widespread irregularities. Magufuli is seeking a second 5-year term in presidential and parliamentary polls marked by complaints of restricted internet access and accusations of fraud. Opposition and right groups have complained that his administration has cracked down on critical voices, closing down media outlets and prevented opposition public rallies. Now let us take a look at the coronavirus updates. According to WHO data, the number of infected cases has crossed 44 million worldwide. France and Germany have ordered sweeping restrictions on social life to contain a surge in coronavirus infections. Kashgar in China's Xinjiang province has been put under restrictions as 183 new coronavirus cases surface in the city so far. Meanwhile, India's national recovery rate has reached close to 91% with over 7.3 million patients recovering so far. Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi today said India has taken a proactive, science-driven approach in response to the pandemic and due to it, India has the lowest COVID-19 mortality rates in the world. Moving on to sports. In tennis, top-seeded Novak Djokovic saved 4 set points to beat Croatia's Borna Coric in the second round of Erste Bank Open in Vienna. In football, Manchester United defender Alex Telles has tested positive for COVID-19. India is celebrating the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to Vaishnav Jan by artists from Syria.
वैष्णव जन तो तेने कहिए जे सीधे पराई जाने रे पर दुखे उपकार करे तोए मने अभिमान नाने रे.
And with that, we end this bulletin. See you at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.